everyone. Welcome to the morning show. We're coming to you today on WJOP-LP Newburyport at FM 96.3, on Channel 9, and on Newburyport Community Media's YouTube channel at ncmhub.org. I'm your host, Mary Jacobsen, and I'm delighted this morning to welcome Mary Dissette and Diane Simmons here. Mary Dissette is the founder and president of the Port Gingerbread Festival, and Diane is part of the volunteer team. And so, first of all, Mary and Diane, thank you so much. Welcome to the morning show. I appreciate your taking time to visit us.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have
here.
It's a pleasure to have you both. Now, the Gingerbread Festival will be it's a contest and an exhibition, and it'll be happening from December 13th to the 15th at Central Congregational Church on Titcomb Street in Newburyport. But I want to start with congratulating you on last year's inaugural Port Gingerbread Festival, which was hugely successful and popular. So, first of all, congratulations. It's really amazing what you accomplished last year. It was hugely popular and just a wonderful community event.
Well, thanks, Mary. I'll pass that along to the rest of the team. It was an enormous collaboration, and that to me is the success of it, is that so many people were involved in making it happen.
Well, you built a strong and very supportive community, which is very impressive. And Diane, I understand that you came to the festival last year and you got sucked in to become a volunteer.
That is, yes.
Maybe lured in would be a better way to put it. So I'm curious, Diane, because you obviously had a very positive experience visiting the festival. What was it that drew you to say, you know what, I think I want to participate in this?
Thank you. So I was an eager volunteer after attending. And Mary, what struck me is it was just so magical when I walked in the room and saw all these people and all of these gorgeous gingerbread creations. Were just fabulous. I loved it. The energy in the room was terrific. And I think it struck a bit of nostalgia for me because I used to make gingerbread with my mom. So it was just a real feel-good, come as you are event that I thoroughly enjoyed. So I had to be part of it moving forward.
Well, that's a wonderful outcome. And I bet you're not alone in that nostalgic kind of draw to remember positive and fun experiences from the past. I wanted to ask both of you also about what are some of the kinds of feedback that you got last year from the people who built the gingerbread houses, the judges, the volunteers, people who came, like you, Diane. What did you hear from folks?
You want to go first, Diane?
Sure. I'd be happy to do that. I think the feedback that I heard, and certainly as experienced as an attendee, was just wow. The level of creativity and the level of community. So just to see the range of awesomeness that people come up with, and it ranges from adorable creations that children make to these highly intricate, gorgeous pieces that professional bakers make. So the wow factor was really cool. And then also knowing that it was to make a difference. This was a community event that made a difference, just kind of took it to that next level. It was a beautiful event. It was a beautiful event that had a mission behind it.
I love that phrase, the range of awesomeness, Diane. That's a great phrase. And Mary, you want to add anything that you heard back from people about it?
Yes, I would say that the first piece of feedback for me was the fact that people responded to all of the asking that we did. I mean, this was months of asking people to do things, starting with in January, asking people to have a cup of coffee with me and let me bounce the idea off of them. Actually, the previous December was when a few of the village members went with me to the Portsmouth exhibition to get just a general idea of what an event like this might look like, and to gauge whether we thought it would work in Newburyport and whether we would have the wherewithal to pull it off. And I was not even thinking beyond year one at all. But a number of people were coming up to me during the festival and saying, so this will be annual, right? and I was kind of shocked. I hadn't really thought about that. And so Diane responded when I said, well, this really depends on people being willing to work on it throughout the year. It's not just something that you start the day after Thanksgiving. So, but all of the asking had to do with people giving me the benefit of their wisdom, other nonprofit leaders in town, and connecting with them and their constituencies, trying to get the word out, trying to craft how we would do our fundraising asks and go to the merchant community here in town, go to the banks, and ask for financial support to pay the expenses of putting the event on. And all of that was a huge question mark at first. We became encouraged. The Institution for Savings was our first funder, came through with a nice grant that just really, it was great to have in the bank, but it was also great for moral support to tell us to keep going with it, and to sort of bolster the requests that we were making of others. For them to know that the institution was involved was important, I think. So we spent all summer asking for money, and and we got it. But then the big mystery is, okay, we've got money in the bank now to pay the expenses, the facilities, the insurance, the equipment, and the publicity, printing of posters and so forth. But could we get anybody to make gingerbread houses? And so that was the other question. But we had, throughout those months of talking to people, developed a list of about 50 people who said they would. And as a gingerbread builder myself, I know that the best of intentions don't always come to fruition for whatever reason. Sometimes I've had projects that reached too far and they were total fail, or I just couldn't complete them in time for exhibition. And so I know that happens. And I was very pleasantly surprised and relieved when we actually got 35 people to register that they were going to, bring a gingerbread house by a certain date. And 32 of those materialized, which I think is a very good
That's very impressive.
Percentage.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Totally.
And so 32, our goal had been 30. We thought that 30 would make a really nice showing. And we got 32. But it was really the quality of them that surprised us. I think that we had not known that there were people who were experienced enough to pull something off. Also, there were some rank beginners who pulled off very nice pieces. I'm thinking of the owner of the pack mail that used to be on Story Avenue. He'd never built one before at all. He built 2 beautiful red delivery trucks that were quite popular with the kids. So you don't know what you're going to get. So just to paint the picture for people, what the festival looked like, we were in the church hall. We were able to change the lighting with the help of a wonderful theatrical lighting designer who volunteered his services. Change the lighting a little bit to create an atmosphere of twilight and twinkle. That was the goal. And put a lot of sparkling fairy lights all over the tables, and I think that shows off the gingerbread houses very nicely. And some of those gingerbread houses had lights within. Yeah, I remember that as well. So that's the general atmosphere. That's what you get when you walk in the door, and I think it as Diane said, it's a come as you are event. There's no ticketing, there's no, you just walk in the door and enjoy yourself. And for those who are planning to visit this year, I think I would recommend allowing like 30 to 60 minutes of your day to enjoy the exhibition. More if you're intensely interested in the intricacies of these structures. And like me, I mean, I studied other builders' creations for a long time, and each year I would decide what what technique or what material am I going to work on next?
Right.
And then each year I would probably, each year I would take on a new material to get familiar with
Yeah.
and try to play with, make something new. Yeah.
Well, those little fairy lights only enhance the range of awesomeness, I would say. And the word that comes to
Yes.
my mind when you walk in the door is enchantment. And don't we all need a little bit more enchantment in our lives? So,
I would say,
well,
yeah.
well, let's talk a little bit about, I mean, last year was a smashing success, I think, because it just hit a chord with people clearly. And all those conversations you had and all the work you did clearly was well received by people who were willing to fund you, who were willing to build a range of awesome constructions. So let's talk about what people can look forward to this year that might be a little bit different. Now, I know that since last year, you've become an independent nonprofit organization, but you still work, I think, in close collaboration with the village, who provides you with a source of volunteers and a connection to the broader community. And one of the notable things about the festival is how many volunteers you have and the kind of intergenerational collaboration. And I think, Maeve, we have a picture that illustrates the intergenerational collaboration of volunteers, if you want to put that up. So is it true that your range of volunteers went from the ages of 12 to 82?
At least 82, I think. I didn't ask everybody their age, but
Yeah, no, you don't want to.
yeah. Right. But for those who aren't familiar with the village, it's a membership organization of primarily of seniors, and it's mutual self-help. It's helping each other to live their best lives while staying in their own homes for as long as possible. For most of them, that is a goal. But it's also very strongly a social and recreational organization that also gives back to the community. The village sponsors a monthly talk up at the senior center, many different activities, and their sponsorship and early support of the Gingerbread Festival was a way of that organization making itself better known in the community and giving back a wonderful free activity during the holiday season.
And I think just also to illustrate the intergenerational engagement, I believe you also had some middle school volunteers from the NYS Youth Council, so maybe you want to show that briefly, just to give people a sense of the range. Again, Mary, I think that one of the most impressive things is how you built this extensive community throughout really greater Newburyport. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was I believe that you have a new charitable beneficiary. And Diane, you spoke earlier about how that was important to you. So perhaps you could both talk a little bit about why that matters and who is the new beneficiary this year.
Sure. So the beneficiary this year is Nourishing the North Shore, which we are excited to be able to bring the goodness of this event and also the proceeds of this event to benefit Nourishing the North Shore. For those who are not familiar with that organization, they are focused really on helping our neighbors in need who don't have access to healthy food, and a good part of their partnership is bringing local farms and local food banks together. So imagine that world where food banks are populated not just with canned goods and shelf-stable goods, but also with fresh food and nourishing food. So it's a wonderful organization, and I was introduced to them through this effort. So it's I think it takes the wonderfulness of an enchanting experience, and it adds a whole nother layer of it's a joyful event, but it's a joyful event that actually gives in multiple ways, not just the experience in the moment, but it actually helps our neighbors. So that just is a wonderful component. And that when I learned that was highly important to me, to be able to be involved in an organization that not only creates a wonderful experience, but gives back. So it's almost like a twofer. And I loved it.
It is a twofer, absolutely. And if there's anything that feels as good or better than the experience of 30 minutes to an hour of enchantment, it's the feeling that, you're helping people in need. You're doing something good. Because that inherently, I think, adds to the joy. So well done. Yeah.
It's a nice symbiosis because the fact that there is a good cause to be helping motivates all of the volunteers that we need to put on the event, and motivates the gingerbread makers, because they're pretty critical to this whole thing, and it costs some money to make a gingerbread house. And so, apart from the hours that you might spend doing it, there is an expense involved. And so I feel that it is very helpful to the festival to have a good cause for people to feel good about spending their time on.
Absolutely.
During the holiday season, and spending some money too.
Absolutely. Now, I understand that one of the things that will be new is you've added a raffle. So could you tell us about what will be raffled off?
Yeah. We don't know.
It's a surprise raffle.
That's part of the fun. December 12th is our setup day, and that's the day that we start receiving the gingerbread creations. So it's like having 40 blind dates. We don't know what's coming in the door. And it's very exciting, but it's also a little nerve-wracking. But last year's experience is so reassuring, really. We know we've got a lot of talented people out there, and people who are committed enough to complete their houses and bring them in for exhibition. It's also highly motivating, I can say this as a gingerbread maker myself, to know that there's an audience for the piece that you produce, because you do put in a lot of time. And it's, while it's fun to show it to a few neighbors, it's more fun to show it to 1,000 people. And we were shocked and amazed last year that we had 1,022 visitors that we counted. And we had set as our goal 300. We thought it'd be a success if we had 300 people. So that was good too. Go ahead with your next question, Mary, because I could go on.
Well, I know that the raffle is new, and one of the things that you've also done this year is that you have experimented with certain kinds of community outreach. I know you did something at Yankee Homecoming. You did something for Amesbury Family Fun Day. And I think maybe we have a picture of Amesbury Family Fun Day you could put up. And you also did a workshop at Tinker House. And and I think actually there's an amusing photo, I think, of a failed effort at the Tinker House workshop, which sends the message, you don't have to start out perfect. It's a learning process.
It's a moment that's amusing now. It wasn't so amusing at the time.
But it
the story is I put up the 4 walls of a gingerbread house in preparation for the Tinker House workshop. And the idea was that we had a plan for the participants in that workshop to complete the house there. And that was part of the learning experience. But on the way over, my KitchenAid mixer tipped over onto the house, and when I arrived, it had smashed into pieces.
Oh no!
So so I instead of, fortunately I had a co-teacher who could carry on for the first hour of the class while I busied myself trying to repair it with royal icing and so forth, and to contribute to the pressure. The Daily News had sent a photographer over, and he told me quite clearly that his assignment was to get a picture of a gingerbread house here. So I told him I would do the best I could, and the next picture, I think there's one with the instructor in it, and it gives you a glimpse of the gingerbread house that people will be seeing at the festival.
The rescued house, I think, was the label.
The rescued house, and it will be on display as Tinker House's contribution. So Tinker House is a local nonprofit. that sponsors classes in all kinds of crafts. And this year we were asked by the director, Mary McDonald, if we could teach a class on the piping skills that go into decorative gingerbread houses.
Right.
So that was the thrust of that class. And we had an enthusiastic group of 12 participants, and several of them are going to be submitting gingerbread house creations to the festival this year.
Well, anybody who spent any time with the Great British Baking Show knows how important good piping skills are.
Oh, yes.
They can make the difference between being star baker and being sent home. But I think what I know an important part is just recognizing that this is all about having fun. And if you have certain pieces that you need to repair with royal icing, that's just all part of the process. It's all about, I know that you've emphasized that, Mary, that it's just about having fun and being lighthearted about it. So, well, let's see. And also, as you've mentioned, I know it's also important, all skill levels, because you've talked about people from doing elaborate creations, and we'll take a look at some of the winners from last year in a minute, to people who start out as total beginners, but may discover that they have a talented gingerbread house maker that's been lurking latent within without them having had the opportunity to express that. Well, let's talk about some of the winners, if we might, because there were different categories, and let's see. There's a winner of the youth group division, Mage, if you could put that picture up. Summer Camp by Scout Troop number 251 of Newburyport. And is there anything that you'd like to say about this winner?
Well, this was really fun to get to know the boys in this scout troop and to help them a little bit with their creation. And this is one of the challenges that I find, and it's something that I continue to work on, is what can you do with a group that gives everybody an opportunity to create something with their hands and contribute to the finished results.
Yep.
And so this was a fun one because each of the boys did make a little tent out of gingerbread and also an evergreen tree and also a canoe or a kayak to go in the little boathouse there. So that was a fun thing. And I made a note of some of the comments that the judges made when they were marking their score sheets. And with respect to this one of the judges said, well, this really reads like it's fresh from a child's mind.
Oh.
And, and so,
very nice.
And I do think that's part of the experience of making these things is where your imagination takes you. Yeah. And what details you want to add, because I find that you're actually living with the structure and living in the environment that you're creating. And much of what's in your imagination never makes it to the sugar and gingerbread reality, but it does take you to a different place. It's an extremely absorbing activity. It's an escape. It can be a refuge, but it's certainly it's almost like writing your own book for a little while.
There you go. Well, let's take a look at the winner of the family division, the Custom Gingerbread House Maritime Museum by Baking Buddies Elizabeth Rankin and her son Silas, also of Newburyport. Any comments you want to make about this? This was very impressive, by the way. It really looked like the Custom House Maritime. You'd recognize it going by. And I remember seeing it. I said, wait a minute, is that? Yes, and yes, it was. So
yeah, well, impressive is one of the words that the judges put down on their sheets, and they said grand, inspiring, local relevance, great execution, and I love the glass windows. So one of the things I think to note about this is it's clear to me that this family took pictures of the custom house and created proportions, the correct proportions. on their pattern that they use to cut their gingerbread pieces, because it's the proportions of the building that help to make it recognizable.
Absolutely.
They got the angle of the roof line right, and the big pretzel columns out front, and the steps and the red buoy beside it. Everybody in town recognizes that instantly as the custom house.
Yeah. Well, the teen division was Flower Shop, which is really cute, by Nicola Barbone and Cam Terrian of Hampstead, New Hampshire. Anything you wanted to say about the Flower Shop while Maeve shows that picture?
Well, I know that this young teen has been doing gingerbread with her aunt for many years. In their family, they have a family contest that goes on the day after Thanksgiving. So they are a group of very experienced gingerbreaders there. And it shows in Nicola's beautiful piece here. She really, she had a great concept, and that's something that some years I have trouble. I don't have an idea that really inspires me, but she had something here. And so the idea will take you where you want to go. And one thing to mention about gingerbread creation in general is that my husband says that what he enjoys about it is that the materials are so forgiving. And yes, and you've got your royal icing to come to your rescue, and this is not an act of precision in any way. It is you are partnering with these materials. They have an equal say in how this thing comes out. It's not all your mind directly to the reality. These materials are going to govern the final result as much as you are. So, but that's part of the fun. It's the serendipity of what's going to happen when that gingerbread piece comes out of the oven.
And one of the things I've learned from you last year and this year, Mary, is that there are a few things that royal icing cannot fix. So it's your friend. And then a really interesting construction was the Benton-Do Shrine, Daigo Ji. If you could show that one, Maeve, by Christine Young of West Newbury. Because this one I would notice, people were really struck by this walking by it. I said, wow, a Buddhist shrine, is that what I think it is? And because it was just so intriguing. It wasn't what you expected to see at a gingerbread festival. So would you want to say a little bit about that one?
Diane, how'd that one strike you when you saw it?
It seemed...
that one stood out to me as an attendee. I think my thought was, I had no idea you could do that with gingerbread.
Yes, that's exactly it, Diane. Yeah.
It was magnificent in terms of the execution, both the structure, but I think what made that one so compelling was the whole landscape and environment. There was a bridge, there was water. It was spectacular in terms of just all of the elements. So that for me was the one that was quite magical and quite awe-inspiring on that range of awesomeness.
That's
agree.
very well put, Diane, because I think it invited you in to study the little details. And kind of with that, created a kind of a calm that a Zen shrine should. So,
I was just going to say that, Mary. I think that it had mood. It had real mood to it.
Yeah, that's right.
The light within, and just the realism of it really draws you in. You really think that you are looking at a Japanese shrine there. And some of the details that I love are the two white swans that are floating in the moat that's around the shrine, and the arched bridge that is really lovely. I do want to say, Mary, this reminds me to tell you that one new thing in this year's festival will be a scavenger hunt.
Oh, okay.
And the way you do a scavenger hunt at a gingerbread event is you this will be fun for the children. They come and they get a list of little details to look for as they go through the exhibit. And then they fill in the number of the exhibit where they saw two swans, or where they saw, I'll tip you off, one's going to be a yellow wheelbarrow this year. So, the little tiny things that they can go through and look for. And I hope that encourages people to spend a little time with each of the creations and really notice what has been accomplished there.
I think that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. For children and adults, too. So there's one more picture I'd like to show because it's pretty impressive. Let's show the Christmas train station by Carla Warren, also of Hampton, New Hampshire. And anything either of you would like to say about this one?
You can imagine how thrilled we were when this came in the door last year. Yeah, Carla is an experienced gingerbread maker. Our rules for our contest, because of our concerns about space limitations, our rules say that you should limit the size of your platform to 15 inches by 15 inches. Mm-hmm. But we have a footnote. We say in the rules that if you're confident and you want to make something bigger, just please seek out advance permission. So I mentioned that so that people, when they look at this piece, won't wonder, oh, how did she get to make something so big? So she did call me in advance and ask if she could have a little leeway on the size. Yeah. And aren't we glad that we gave that to her, because this was a real centerpiece of the festival last year. And it was interesting to me that clearly this is an act of love for Carla. She just loves doing this. Mm-hmm. But it was so interesting that the adult category resulted in 2 different prizes. The judges awarded their prize to the Japanese shrine, mm-hmm. and the popular vote award went to Carla's Christmas train station here. Oh, wow. So it was a real people pleaser. And we were thrilled to have it. So.
Well, there's the Oscars and there's the People's Choice Awards. And there's room for both of them. And sometimes they're not always the same. So
there are. Yeah. Right.
Well, it's so much fun to talk to both of you about the event, and I'm getting excited about coming to see. So I think as we finish for today, let's talk a little bit about what people need to know if they're interested in creating a creation. What's the date for deadline? Where can they get information? You have a wonderful website. Okay. So just talk a little bit about people who are intrigued and are interested, and what would be helpful for them to know about resources available to them, where they can get the information, and when they need to get it in by.
Okay. We have a website. It's www.portgingerbreadfestival.org. And on that website, there is a place for you to register if you want to be in the contest. And you'll find there the contest rules, and you'll also find a page of recipes and resources to help you build. I think people are pretty well aware there's a lot of resources and lessons available online these days on YouTube and other places, and lots of places to look at pictures of gingerbread houses to get ideas and inspiration. Our deadline this year is December 6th, which is that is to sign up. To get a space in the contest. And then your gingerbread creation would be due at the church on December 12th. We have delivery window between 4 and 7 p.m. that Thursday. And then if like me, you run into a little problem, you need a little more time, the last call is the next day, noon to 1:30. And at 2 o'clock that Friday, that's when the judges come in. One thing to mention, and to go back to your question about the raffle, Mary, is we ask the gingerbread creators when they sign up to let us know if it's okay to raffle off their house at the end of the festival. And most people do say yes. So we will have a selection of gingerbread houses. We can't raffle them all off, unfortunately, because we don't have a place to store them once the festival is done. But we think we can manage 5 gingerbread houses to be raffled off that day. And the proceeds, of course, will be going to nourishing the North Shore.
Well, that's an inducement for sure. Well, one thing we haven't talked about, but as we finish up, I would like to ask Maeve to show. You have a mascot now, Gingerbread Jack. And we have a picture of Gingerbread Jack, but I can't tell from the picture, how big is Gingerbread Jack?
He's just under 33 inches. I
Okay,
think.
so about a yard, a little under a yard.
Yes, yeah, but he's very wide. He's got a very wide
That
stance.
seems fitting. And so Gingerbread Jack is a movable mascot you can take around and photograph wherever you want. And I assume that Gingerbread Jack will be attending this year's Port Gingerbread Festival. So
Yes. We'll have a photo booth so people can have their picture taken with Gingerbread Jack.
that is also just brilliant. So, well, Diane.
And we brought him to the Topsfield Fair, Mary. I just want to mention that. And we he was created by a team of 4 of us.
How wonderful.
We had one person who was really good with sewing, Pam Amin, and we have Kendra Houlihan on our team who embroidered his beautiful sash that gives the website, and Mike and I chipped in, and so he was really fun to make, and so I contacted the Topsfield Fair and asked if we could enter him in the crafts division, and so he got to make an appearance there, and maybe some people will have found out about the Gingerbread Festival because of his appearance there.
No doubt. Well, Diana, are you a builder this year as well as a volunteer?
I am not a builder this year. I think next year. I'm building up my courage and my so I need one more year of inspiration before I go in the build category.
Fair enough. And there clearly will be lots of inspiration for future Port Gingerbread festivals. Well, Diane and Mary, thank you both so much for taking time to have this really fun conversation about gingerbread festivals past and the one about to take place. And I thank you for taking time to visit the morning show. It's really been fun to talk with both of you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Really appreciate it. It was fun.
Thank you, Mary.
My pleasure. Well, that's it for today, everybody. Please join us again next Thursday at 9 for the morning show. Until then, everybody, be well. Farewell.